DocTalk is brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. Today I'm Dr. Dan Thomson and we're here at Kansas State University where I serve as the Jones Professor of Clinical Epidemiology, and we're going to talk about feed mixing. Some of the things that I've learned from Robbi, Pritchard, and Dan Loy at the Iowa State Feedlot short course, and then we're going to talk about the reason why it's important, whether it's the feed additives, the concentrate to roughage, making sure that we get an even mix delivered to all the cattle all the time. Stay tuned.
As dependable as the sunrise, in dairy parlors, open pastures, on ranches and feed yards across America, a place where reputation is more than a name, where the science of healthier animals is a way of life. It's the responsibility that drives who we are and what we do. Every decision, every day. It's your livelihood and our responsibility.
Closed captioning brought to you by Vet Gun with Amel and new AMA Abamectin Vet Caps, the 1-2 punch against hornfly resistance from AgriLabs.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thomson here. We're at Kansas State University, and I'm going to give a big shout out first to Dr. Ben Bennett up there in Montana. One of my former students sent me his Mountain Valley Veterinary Services cap. Sure am proud of Ben and all that he's getting done with his veterinary practice in Montana. When we talk about feed mixing and in general, we tend to think about mixer time, mixer type, and things of that nature. And I think we need to take a step back and first talk about why mixing feed adequately and thoroughly is important. We feed non-nutritive feed additives, whether it's antibiotics, hormones, ionophores to change rumen metabolism. And when we use those products, we need to make sure that they are used in very small amounts. And so we use premixes or carriers so that we can mix those into a bigger mix so we get more even distribution in the mixer wagon, which then gives us more even distribution in the feed bunk. Some of those products that we use, as far as antibiotics, the two ones that we use the most are chlorotetracycline, or else otherwise known as AS700 or Oramycin 700, that is used for the treatment and control of bovine respiratory disease. The other one that we use quite frequently is called Tylen, and Tylen is a macrolide antibiotic that is utilized at 8 to 10 grams per ton. So a ton is 2,000 pounds. We're putting 8 grams of something into a ton of feed and getting even distribution. Tylen is used for the control of liver abscesses in cattle, okay? And if we don't use Tylen, we'll have 20, 30, 40% liver abscesses. When we feed Tylen, we have 8% liver abscess rate with a decrease in severity. When we look at the hormone that we feed melangestrol acetate, otherwise known as MGA. MGA is a progesterone analog that we feed only to heifer cattle and feedlots because it will suppress estrus. And when we suppress estrus, we don't get the common sexual behavior or the riding behavior in the heifers, and it decreases the energy used, giving us more efficient gains, but also prevents injury from riding. The last one that we'll talk about is what we call an ionophore. And an ionophore is a feed additive that will change bacteria from produce in the rumen. So we feed the cow, the food goes to the rumen is full of microbes. And in that rumen, the microbes digest the hay. When we have the digestion, they either produce acetate or propionate. Propionate is more efficient at being converted to glucose in the liver, giving you a more efficient animal. So when we feed rumensin, this ionophore, we will actually change the microbial population in the rumen so that that population produces more propionate, giving you more growth or the same growth on less feed, improving feed efficiency. Incredible technology, incredible things going on. Proper mixing is the key, and we'll talk about that more when we return. Hey folks, Dr. Dan here. Welcome to Cattle First, as sponsored by Boehringer Ingelheim Vet Medica. And the term today, biosecurity. Biosecurity is security. It's like having a bouncer that keeps pathogens out and keeps disease out of your herd. One of the best tools you can use for biosecurity is a proper vaccination program, and work with your veterinarian on that. The second one is introduction of new animals. And when we bring new animals on the farm, making sure that if there's a disease that is important that we test for, that we have that done prior to bringing them on the premise. And if they haven't been, then we have a place to quarantine them until we can get the diagnostics back, I think is vitally important. Talking to your neighbors as cattle lean across the fence and communicate with each other, making sure that you have a community-wide biosecurity plan and vaccination plan, vitally important. Keep the disease out, be the bouncer.
Kansas Farm Bureau has served farm families and rural Kansas for more than 100 years, and we're pleased to offer new healthcare coverage choices for Kansans in 2020 through Kansas Farm Bureau health plans. No matter what stage of life you're in, we'll have options that fit your lifestyle. Plus, our network of providers is one of the largest available throughout the state of Kansas and beyond. For more information, including the different plans available, or to get a quote, visit kfbhealthplans.com.
No matter where, no matter why, the Veterinary Health Center at Kansas State University is committed to providing quality patient care to animals and exceptional customer service to their owners. From routine checkups to emergency and specialty care, our world-renowned specialists and experienced professionals are here to discover, to teach, and to heal.
Let us know.
How can I help?
How can we help?
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
ValleyVet.com, ValleyVet.com, Valley Vet Supply.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thomson here at Kansas State University, where we're at the Beef Cattle Research Center, and we're talking about feed mixing. And so when we first start out with feed mixing, I think it's important, and I want to give credit to where credit is due. Dr. Robbi Pritchard and Dr. Dan Loy put on the Iowa State Feedlot short course. And when I went up there, I didn't realize some of the importance of mixing, and then some of the ways that you can test that you have proper mixing. But as Robbi brought out just a baking pan or bowl with a spatula, and he said, now what are y'all gonna feed today in your mixed ration? We said, well, we got hay, we got distiller's grain, we got corn, we got our premix, and we got silage. So we've got a wet silage, we've got wet distillers, we've got dry corn, dry rolled corn, our trace mineral and non-nutritive feed additive premix, and then we've got hay. And he'd say, well, which one do you want to put in first? And the first thing people would say is, I'm going to put the hay in first. and they put the hay in first, and then you start to mix in the corn, and as he would just start to stir it, you'd see the hay come over the top of the, and it was bulky and it wouldn't move. And he said the difference between grandma's cookies being better than your cookies is because grandma knows which ingredients go into the mixer in the right order, so that you get a proper even mixing of all the ingredients, so that when her cookies come out, they're all the same and they all taste the best and they're not clumpy. Okay, so to help you with mixing, and you want to think about this, and if you have those ingredients out, hay, silage, corn, wet distillers, and your premix, the first things we're going to put in are going to be the distillers, the corn, and the premix, because they move really freely together. Doesn't that make sense? If you've ever put those into a mixer bowl or put those types of ingredients, and they will mix. And while those are mixing, then we'll go after our hay. So we're going to let those mix first and get a good thorough mixing of those smaller ingredients that go together. Then we're going to bring in the hay, and we'll put the hay down and use that wet, heavy silage to go on top of the hay and hold that in the mixer, so that then everything will mix together. I think that when we think about mixing and feed mixing, a lot of times we don't think about the thoroughness of our mix, and when we don't have that thoroughness and even distribution, one animal might get MGA and the other 3 animals here won't. And when they don't get it in the feed bunk, that's when we'll see, if you're seeing rioting and different things like that, we need to first go look at not only the ingredients that we're using, but let's make sure that we're having a proper mixing. Once we have that type of list, and we're putting those ingredients in the right order, if you use an ingredient box that's going to dump into your mixer, you have to actually do all those ingredients in reverse order so that you get them from the bottom to the top when you flip that mixer box. Again, take your small grain, your distillers, your trace minerals, put those in first, allow those to mix thoroughly, then we'll bring that bulkier hay, place that on top, and use that wet silage to hold it down so that it feeds it into those teeth, into that mixer, and then we'll be off and running with a good total mixed ration. When we come back, we're going to talk about ways that you can measure on your farm that your mixing is occurring properly.
When you're in the cattle business, no matter how much it's a business, it still starts with cattle. It's this basic notion that sits at the core of how we approach things at Beringer Ingelheim. We understand when you put the cattle first, it just naturally leads to doing the right things. If you want to do well in this business, you start by doing right. Take care of the cattle, and they'll take care of you.
I had this horse. It was a good horse, except for when the wind was blowing above 30 miles an hour. Wind was blowing about 35, 40, and I saddled him up, rode him out to the end of the lane, and I thought, well, he's doing pretty good. And about 6 jumps later, I was laying on the ground and thinking, boy, my shoulders sure hurt. I kept waiting, and it didn't get better, and so I went to orthopedic surgeon, and that showed that I had torn rotator cuff. And said, well, I have to do surgery. I thought, I farm and ranch by myself. This is not going to work out very well. I'd been sleeping in my recliner for about 2.5 years because it hurt too much to sleep in bed on my side. I'd heard about Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center on the radio. Gotten down there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and by 11:30 the procedure was all over. They just took some fat out of my side here and spun that down for about 45 minutes and then injected it in my shoulders, and I was on my way. It's something you don't hear about, but I thought it was worth a try, and I'm really pleased. It's really worked out well for me.
Long-term medication, even though we have medications now that are exceptionally safe, especially for senior animals, they come with a cost. So you figure you're going to run about $2.25, depending on the medication that you choose to use, $2 to $3 a day. And so if you're going to spend $100 a month, but what I tell my owners is that once you've gone down that road of utilizing pain medication and the dog's doing great on it, and they can't feel it, they can't stop. You pull them off of it, they're going to be worse. So you have to keep going. So you have to commit to yourself that, hey, I'm going to do this medication, I'm going to keep it going, and I'm never going to stop. With this, there's really no commitment. It's like, okay, we did this. If this works, great. If there's a condition that maybe it didn't work so much for, or maybe there was some compliance issue or something happened, we're not stuck in any way, shape, or form. We can go to another modality if we feel it's appropriate. But in this instance, I think we're onto something, at least with this therapy, at least from our judgment, that has done really well, because we have not yet had a dog come back. We have not repeated an injection. We have not had a complaint. And the dogs that have come back into our office, it is really hard to tell where the lameness was.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
ValleyVet.com, ValleyVet.com, Valley Vet Supply.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thomson. We're outside, so it's a little windy here in Kansas. I know that after living in West Texas, this is just a good, gentle breeze. And then living in Iowa, this is a storm. But anyway, this is a special one for me because some of my mentors, Robbi, Pritchard, and Dan Loy, had the opportunity to help teach me and bring some of this to fruition. But let's talk about how we might go out and sample feed to make sure that we are adequately mixing, and it's simple, okay? You can do mixing tests and dyes and different things to that nature if you're a big operation, but let's just say that you're like me and it's a small operator, and I want to know that my mixer is in the order in which I'm putting the ingredients, that I'm getting a good thorough mix so that all the animals in the yard are getting the same bite of feed at every time. And what we do is we will just come behind the mixer wagon and first you have to do is sample, okay? So we'll mix the ration and then we'll take it out to deliver. And then as that is delivered across the bunk for the entire pen, what I will do is I will come behind the mixer wagon, and as it delivers, and I will take 5 small Ziploc bags or medium-sized Ziploc bags samples of feed within that pen. So I start at one end, I'll take one about 20% down, one 40% down, 60, and then at the end, and take 5 samples evenly spaced across that bunk. That gives you adequate understanding. The other way that we've done it is we've gone and just put all the feed on the ground and sampled, but you might as well just put it in the bunk and sample it before the cattle consume it. That will give you that will give you a different at the beginning of the mixer and at the end of the mixer, and it will give you different distributions across that bunk. Once you have those samples, then we have to take them back to the shop, and there's 2 things that we can do. One of them is to look at the thoroughness and mixing of the concentrates and the roughages. And if you've ever seen a Penn State shaker box, this box has different types of screens in it, and those screens go from bigger to smaller. And as you shake the box, your bigger size particles will be at the top and your fines will be in the bottom. There are 5 different grades. And what you do is you weigh everything at the beginning. You weigh your total sample, then you weigh within each compartment, and you should have, if you have good mixing distribution, you should have the same percentage of coarse material and fines in each one of those screens to make sure that you're having good mixing. So it's a really good way to look at it. Now, we've simplified it. Sometimes you don't need 5 screens. You might need 1 screen. And 1 screen that's thorough, that you take your sample, you weigh how much, you put it on top, you shake it, the fines drop out the bottom, the coarse stuff's on the top. You should have even percentages of coarse material and fines above and below that screen for all 5 samples to assure that you have thorough mixing. Another way that you can test your mixing is to send it in for chemical analysis. And you can find out the percentage of NDF, you can find the percentage of crude protein, you can do the trace minerals, the vitamins, and things to that nature. It's more expensive, probably not something that you have to do, but if you work with your feed company, maybe they provide some of these things, and you can do actual mixer tests. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll tell you one more way that you can get your mixing and your feed mixing tested. You're watching DocTalk. Thanks for joining us.
Sure Crop Fertilizers was started by my father, Don Sherman, and my mother, Shirley Sherman. Family business that started in the 80s. We predominantly focus on plant nutrients and what we can do to give growers better responses with the fertilizer dollars that they do, and what we can do to make those things work better for the grower. We're based out of Seneca, Kansas. We work with growers in their soil analysis to figure out what they need, and then we can put those in a blend that gives them the best results, and so that we can deliver that direct to their farm so that they have those nutrients where they need them, when they need them, and so that they can apply them in a manner that's very efficient to them and works well in their planting systems and what they're doing. Sure Crop Fertilizers has been around for a long time. We always say we're big enough to take care of everything you need, but we're small enough to do it quickly. You can get a hold of us at 1-800-635-4743. Our website is surecropfertilizers.com, and you can always email me at Corey@surecropfertilizers.com, and with any questions you have, we're glad to answer it and work with you.
Some call it a come from behind victory, an unlikely win, a reversal of fortune, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. This is our moment, our victory dance, because we choose confidence. We choose Zuprevo for BRD treatment. Ask your veterinarian to prescribe Zuprevo. Zuprevo is a fast-acting, long-lasting BRD treatment that you can count on to get the job done. Choose confidence. Choose Zuprevo from Merck Animal Health.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Thanks for joining us today. We're talking about feed mixing, and as we left, we were talking about different ways that you can go out and take samples and you can measure the different levels of the concentrate and roughage to estimate proper mixing. The other one was to look at the proper distribution or even distribution across the bunk after that first feeding or after we delivered out of the feed wagon, using trace minerals or vitamins as markers. Another one that as we discussed earlier, when we feed Tylen and CTC and MGA and ionophores, is if you're feeding one of those ionophores, companies like Elanco will do feed testing for you for that product. So what we'll do is we'll deliver the feed out into the bunk. We'll go and take our 5 samples, and then we'll send those samples in from the same bunk for Rumensin concentration. If we have good mixing, good even distribution, those samples should come back at the same grams per ton or same concentration to indicate that we've been getting proper mixing. So the 3 ways we can do it is we can measure concentrates and roughages with the Penn State shaker box or some sort of screen that's of a similar size. We can look at our trace mineral premix and our trace mineral concentration and the evenness and of concentration across the bunk, or we can use it and measure one of our non-nutritive feed additives working with one of our pharmaceutical company partners. Now, when we start to think about feed delivery, the key to feed delivery or key to things going on to prevent things such as heifers riding each other, preventing bloat and acidosis, preventing digestive upset is consistency. And when we start out thinking about consistency in nutrition, I want consistent ingredients or commodities coming into our facility. I want consistent mixing, and I want consistent feed delivery. When we start to see heifers riding each other, or we start to see acidosis and bloat, we tend to start pointing fingers at each other and pointing fingers at the diet. What I want to make sure is that we haven't had some ingredient change first. So we do look at the diet and the ration, not necessarily what have we done the same, but what might have changed recently. The second one is I want to look at our mixing, making sure that the mixing is appropriate, that we're getting those non-nutritive feed additives spread across the bunk. And the last one is going to be feed delivery. And the delivery, we're talking about the right ration with the right mixing to the right cattle on time. Consistency throughout the day, making sure we deliver that ration to the cattle the same time every day, as these cattle are creatures of habit, and we can get things out of whack and get them too aggressive to the bunk if we delay delivering the feed. So these are some of the things that we can do. And obviously, the one thing that we can't control, the three most inconsistent things in the world are cattle, weather, and people. And we deal with those every day. But if we can keep the other three things consistent, it eliminates a lot of issues. Thanks for watching DocTalk. Remember to always work with your local veterinarian and nutritionist. And if you want to know more about what we do here at DocTalk, you can find us on the web at www.doctalktv.com. Thank you so much. It's humbling to be able to come into your home and to do this show week in and week out. We appreciate you, and we'll see you down the road.
Closed captioning brought to you by Vet Gun with Amel and new AMA Abamectin Vet Caps, the 1-2 punch against hornfly resistance from AgriLabs.
For more information about this program or previous programs, go to DocTalkTV.com.
DocTalk was brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.
Kansas Farm Bureau has served farm families in rural Kansas for more than 100 years. We're pleased to offer new health care coverage choices for Kansans in 2020 through Kansas Farm Bureau Health Plans. No matter what stage of life you're in, we'll have options that fit your lifestyle. Plus, our network of providers is one of the largest available throughout the state of Kansas and beyond. For more information, including the different plans available, or to get a quote, visit kfbhealthplans.com.
Welcome to the Western Kansas Wildlife Travel Center, right here in my hometown of Oakley, Kansas. We're the front door of Western Kansas, located on 3 main highways, I-70, US 83, and US 40. And all those roads lead to history, beautiful scenery, and adventure, no matter which direction you go. We now have an IHOP. That brand that you've trusted up and down the road in all your travels is staffed with local folks, real people, just like you and me, and we're waiting on you to join us. So for fun, adventure, fuel up, fuel your body, and let's have some fun.
Kansas Corn reminds you that E15 fuel is the right choice for every kind of driver. For the car enthusiast, E15 has higher octane. For the thrifty driver, E15 is priced lower than regular unleaded. For the nature lover, E15 provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, cleaner American fuel. Message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.
Kim Mannering with Hardy Insurance. Today we will talk about employee safety and work comp coverage. On your farm, do you ask your friends to come help? Are they considered employees or neighbors helping neighbors? Did you know that you can be held responsible just as if it's a work comp accident? Give me a call, we can discuss. 316-945-6733.